Hello, good afternoon again. Welcome again to Hannover Messe Hydrogen Fuel Cells Batteries Group Exhibit. My name is Robin, and today we'll be speaking with Dr. Bernd Pitschak, a Managing Director at Hydrogenics. Thank you very much for joining us today. Good to have you. Thank you very much.
Good to see you, Robin.
And we will be discussing, the topic today is fuel cells for passenger trains. So we can jump right into that. If you can tell us a little bit about Hydrogenics.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Hydrogenics is in business for more than 20 years now, and our main targets is hydrogen production via electrolysis and the use of hydrogen via PEM fuel cells. So we have both in the company. We generate the hydrogen and we can use the hydrogen, and both is of importance these days. And we have had a discussion this morning with Minister Lies from state of Lower Saxony when we talked about the trains. And yeah, it's my pleasure again to talk about trains.
Thank you very much. Can you tell us a little bit more or elaborate a bit more as far as your applications go?
Yeah, train is one application, and as you said, what other applications can we think of? Of course, everybody knows about cars. That's in the business or in the field for the last 15 years. The next level which we entered was forklifts, and then it came to buses. And buses was quite interesting. It's similar to trains in terms of the transport itself. It's heavy duty application. That means we have larger car bodies, we have a higher demand for power, we have passengers to transport, so we have a similarity in the tasks. And then you have to balance between the transport capacity in terms of passengers, the reach, and the total weight, and of course the economics. And then you start really balancing systems, and it's absolutely clear that you go for hybrid systems, so for battery and fuel cell solutions. The moment you want to recover energy while you brake or you go downhill, you need a battery to store the energy in. And if you have the battery once on board, and you get the fuel cell as a range extender or the source of energy to provide the range, you can now start balancing both systems under the aspect to fulfill the function you need to fulfill, as well as the commercial aspects you have to meet to make it a viable solution for the final customer. And that makes larger applications quite interesting for fuel cell. We also discussed it this morning that for smaller applications, there might be pure battery solutions that will do. In other cases, they will not clearly do. It depends on how you use that application. But for larger applications, so buses, trains, also ships, there is a clear view that hydrogen is needed. And that makes it then easier to introduce hydrogen and fuel cells into these applications.
Thank you. And what is the current state of commercialization for Hydrogenics and their products?
So our products are pure commercial products, off the shelf, available in a variety of power scale. We start at 4 kilowatt for small systems, for backup power units, for example, and it goes all the way up into the 100 kilowatt ranges. They all be formed from the same building block, if you so like. It's a modular system, like a Lego system, where you bring components together which are standardized off-the-shelf components to form up larger systems. And typically when you go to larger systems in hybrid configuration, you add more than the fuel cell to the system. Often the cooling is integrated, the water circuit is integrated, so it becomes more the fuel cell composition or a larger architecture than just a power module, as we call the pure fuel cell. But it's a commercial product.
Thank you. Are there any questions so far at the moment? I forgot to mention that if anyone has any questions, I can pop by and bring you the mic. Not at the moment? Okay. What is, I guess, Hydrogenics' largest, if any, challenge, if there are any challenges?
I wouldn't call it challenge. System integration is always an opportunity, and of course you see certain requests you have to meet and to overcome. In this particular case, for trains, you have to meet the standards and the approval by the Eisenbahnbundesamt, which is very special compared to other road applications, and that requires extensive testing and proving and further testing together with approval authorities to form finally the reports. That is a very interesting opportunity we have faced here, and we were proud to be able to continue to work on that and to have first success before we were allowed to go in dynamic testing. And it was unveiled a couple of weeks ago that the first dynamic drive of the train has happened in Salzgitter. So before that, you need already approval that the systems are safe. That was all fulfilled, and now it's in further testing.
Always correct. What is the role of hydrogen from the perspective of hydrogen mobility?
Thank you for that. That helps me to go into other areas in that business and step away a bit from the fuel cell. Fuel cell, I think, is clearly understood. It is an energy converter. It takes hydrogen, it converts it into electricity. Electricity can be used in that application on whichever other device, and it does it if the hydrogen comes from green resources. It does it on an absolutely zero emission way. So the only emissions out of a fuel cell then is water vapor and oxygen depleted air. But the important question is, where does the hydrogen come from? There are several sources to produce hydrogen, from steam methane reforming, biomass, as well as by electrolysis, which is a very old process, very simple. Everyone from you has seen that in school. You put electrodes in water, you supply DC current to it, and you start forming bubbles at the electrodes. On one side is oxygen, or the other side is hydrogen. So you split the water into hydrogen and oxygen. If the electricity comes from green resources, there are no emissions on the entire chain. So you end up with clean green hydrogen. If that is used in a fuel cell, zero emission. And for us, it's very important that at the end of the day, when it comes to larger quantities, the hydrogen comes from green resources. And of course, as I already laid out for buses, if you go for a fleet typically returns to a central depot or to one line where you can, one point where you can start refueling it. So that makes it also interesting to build up refueling stations for fleets or for larger applications. For buses, for example, if you do for a larger city, the bus depot, it has up to 250, 270 buses. If you turn these buses into hydrogen buses, the demand on hydrogen is about 6 tons per day. And you can imagine for trains, when you have a couple of trains on a route and you bring them at one point where you can refuel them, that the demand is similar, maybe higher, maybe less, it depends on the route. But that makes it very interesting also for us as an electrolyzer company to think about how does such a fueling station look like, 6 tons of hydrogen. So and these aspects come together, and if you then combine it with wind, with solar, with a combination of wind and solar or other green resources, at the end of the day, this is then really zero emission transport, clean energy on the street, on the rail.
Thank you. Going back a little bit to your the name of the topic, fuel cells and passenger trains. Can you elaborate further to that topic name?
Yeah, what we can talk about is what Alstom said. The train is a commercial train available, and it will be similar to the already existing product, so that the customer does not see any differences when he uses new technology. And I think that is absolutely important, and that does count for every product we bring into the market which runs on hydrogen and fuel cells. The customer has to gain a benefit. He has not to talk about, oh, I missed that, because it's not possible with the new technology. Then the technology will fail. The main standard is that you meet exactly what he's aware of and used of today, and then at a premium. That premium can be, it's more silent. If you have an electric drivetrain, for example, compared with internal combustion engines, you will experience that the drive behavior is different. You have the full torque on very low speed already, and you have nearly no noise. So it's a different feeling. And I personally drive a plug-in hybrid as a vehicle, and I really love the long when I drive electric, and I don't like to see the ICE engine turning on. And so these add-ons must be identified and clearly positioned. And the thing of going green, greening not only your product, but greening my footprint by using greener products, is something which gives me a feedback and a sort of confidence doing the right thing. And I think this is something which comes inherent with these systems, and you can transport that message to the customers so that they better understand what they are doing and what they are facing. Otherwise, it's just a train, and you don't realize it. So we have to market it also quite well.
Correct. I see your booth, Hydrogenics is at booth C65, and there is an unveiling coming up. Anything you want to tell us about that, or not tell us about that?
I won't tell you about that. I just invite you for tomorrow morning, 9:30. We will have the unveiling of whatever is behind that blue carpet. I think it will be quite interesting for people who are familiar with hydrogen and in that business. For others, of course, not. But I'm guessing that most of people are interested in hydrogen and hydrogen technology. So please show up. We will have the pleasure to meet our CTO, Mr. Joe Carnelli, one of the founders of Hydrogenics. He will do the unveiling and explain what is behind the blue carpet.
Pretty mysterious, so that piqued my interest. Okay, so it's booth C65, and tomorrow at what time, sorry?
9:30.
9:30 in the morning? Okay, so we'll be there. Thank you so much for speaking with us today. Again, we had Dr. Bernd Pitschak, Managing Director at Hydrogenics. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Robin. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for staying with us. Go ahead. Up next, we have my colleague Uli, and he will be speaking with ITM Power, BMW Group, as well as with the U.S. Department of Energy, and the topic will be framework for hydrogen infrastructure. Thank you very much for staying, and please have something to drink and stay for the next talk. Thank you.